The next is Yajur Veda, and it's the secrets or the Veda of sacrifice. The thing you need to know about sacrifice is this: it is most unpleasant. Genius don't have to sacrifice. Magnus Carlsen, the chess champion for a decade, he comes out of his mother and he says, I don't care for my dad, I don't even care for my mom. Where's the chessboard? Mozart, he doesn't need to sacrifice. If you are in the cradle of passion, the passion will drive you. Sacrifice is not necessary. Sacrifice happens when you have this pleasure, but there is another pleasure you want to pursue, but they run in conflict to one another. Now the question is, which is going to win? Pleasure A or pleasure B? Pleasure A is quick. Pleasure A is familiar. Pleasure B, on the other hand, is unknown. It's a mystery. It makes you feel good, but you're just not sure. But to go with pleasure B, it means you have to sacrifice pleasure A. And the thing you need to understand is this: maturity, intellectual, emotional maturity happens only when you're able to sacrifice something that you have, something that you're familiar with, for something that's unknown. And you must always sacrifice something that has value for you. If you want to understand what sacrifice means, since our friend there talked about the Abrahamic religions, Abraham is an old man. Abraham is a man who doesn't have any children. Abraham is a man who's always yearned, longed to have children. Eventually, God answers his prayers. One morning, Hagar, an Ethiopian maid, goes to Abraham and says, I'm pregnant. He's excited. Who is his son? Ishmael. You have waited 90 long years to have a child. You're also devoted to God. Now, good teachers will never ask you to sacrifice something that's cheap, something towards which you're indifferent, you don't much care. They will always ask you to sacrifice something that's meaningful and valuable to you. بمی سجاده رنگین کن گرد پیر مغان گوید که سالک با خبر نبود ز راه و رسم منزل. If you're a Muslim, you have to pray 5 times a day, and so you have this prayer rug. For the past 20, 30 years, what you do is you stand on this tiny little rug and you pray. But all of a sudden you get yourself in this particular spiritual stage where you just don't want to say things without feeling them. You don't want to say things just to feel them, but you want to understand. And so you find a teacher, a sheikh of sorts, and the teacher comes to realize that every time you go to his house, you also take your prayer rug. He also knows that as a Muslim, you can't drink. So as you're about to pray, he says, wait a minute, I'll be right back. He comes back with a big bottle of vodka or red wine. And as you're about to do your prayer, he says, oh, can you drink some? Also pour some on the prayer rug. He doesn't say, give me your shoes. He doesn't say, give me a buck. He looks at what you're most attached to. And he says, you need to sacrifice those things for me. So God looks at Abraham and says, you can't love 2 masters. It won't work. Do not believe Jesus loved the world. He didn't. He came here to change it. He loved one world and he wanted to change the other. And that's what good teachers do. Now, what does Abraham do? Or what does God ask? God asks Abraham, give me your son. Are you kidding? I waited 90 years. Do you want me or do you want your son? I want you. If you want me, give me your son. Point is, maturity, spiritual development, intellectual refinement only happens in sacrifice. And whenever you want to make any sacrifices, there's a good amount of conflict, doubt, disbelief, fear. There is no other way.